It's by Abigail Shrier, who writes for the Wall Street Journal as well. And the book is Irreversible Damage, The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters. And it is, I'm on my way to the third chapter, and it is a fabulous book. And it brings in actual testimony from people who are going through this, like actual families that are going through this, and it incorporates, the scientific aspect, and I just really like how it's done. And Abigail joins us now via Skype. Abigail, congratulations on the book. I know it came out in July, but congrats on the book and the impact that you're having on this discussion. And I'm so glad that, because it's not a hyper-partisan book either. You really get into these families' experiences and what their kids are going through. And then you also look at, these adverse effects that this is having. Tell me about this book and how you came across discovering these people to talk to include.
Absolutely. So it's not a partisan book. It's not a political book at all. The book is an exploration of a medical mystery, and that is why in the last decade have we gone from 0.01%, so a tiny fraction of the population used to identify as what we used to call transsexual, to now 2% of American high school students say they are transgender, and we have reason to believe that number is going higher and higher. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, most of them are girls. Teenage girls who don't want to be women. So the book examines why that might be, and it really is just an exploration. I talk to everyone. I talk to all sides of this issue, and to find out what's really going on.
Yeah, and I was really, and the fact that I didn't realize until I was reading your book that the majority of these new, I don't want to say cases, but that so many of these people that are professing that they are part of this phenomena, they're girls. Because I sort of figured it was kind of half and half, and it's not. And that really says something about, I think, where things are mental health wise. And you start the book with a story of a young girl who's really going through serious issues. She's dealing with anxiety and depression. And then it seems that she finds an outlet for that with this identifier. And even if someone is very supportive on one end of the scale with transgenderism and politics, wouldn't that be, though, if you were really looking at solving the issue that young women are going through, we would want to explore the situation as your book does. But you touched on, and I want to have you answer this, you touched on how these girls, and this really stood out to me, it's not that they're identifying with being men, they just don't want to be women.
That's right. We're seeing for the first time in a 100-year diagnostic history of so-called gender dysphoria, that is severe discomfort in one's biological sex. It went from something that always overwhelmingly afflicted boys and men to being overwhelmingly something that is claimed by teenage girls. These are the same population that falls for every hysteria. It's the same high anxiety, high depression population that gets involved in cutting, multiple personality disorder, and every other hysteria. The problem is, in a prior era, if these girls were to suffer anorexia, no one would celebrate them. But today, everyone from their teachers at school to the online influencers to their therapists and doctors are encouraging and facilitating very fast, very dramatic medical transition.
Yeah, and the hormone usage as well. A number of them won't actually go through any sort of surgical reassignment, but they do take hormones. And it seems that that's kind of, it's a societal faux pas to talk about the negative impact that may have on their bodies as they mature.
That's right. I mean, look, I get attacked for talking about this all the time, even by activist doctors today. But I interviewed detransitioners, young women who regret their decision. And because these girls don't have typical gender dysphoria at all, they are not cured or helped by medical transition. So the population that is already coming out and regretting and speaking up against that they were pushed into these things, that they were going through a hard time in their teenage years, and they were able as minors to get all kinds of hormones and surgeries and now regretting it. This is an exploding population, and we are turning a blind eye to it.
Yeah, that's so significant what you say as well, because they don't have what would be normally classified as like traditional gender dysphoria markers for to say, and is it that they see this and they think this might be the answer to what I'm struggling with? This could be the remedy, and they hear about it so much via either social media or in culture, and that's just what they sort of gravitate to?
That's right. So young people in psychological pain, and they are in genuine pain. We have never seen teenage and tween girls in so much psychological pain in terms of cutting, suicide, suicidal ideation, self-harm, as we are seeing right now. It is truly an explosion. And one part of this mental health crisis our young women are in is manifesting itself in this particular form of self-harm. So instead of saying, oh, I'm so fat, the problem is I'm so fat, they're saying the problem is I'm not supposed to be a girl, I'm a boy.
Wow. We're talking with Abigail Shrier, whose new book, Irreversible Damage, The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters, is, I mean, this is a big wake-up call. Why is it, I'm on the younger scale of Gen X. I'm a Gen Xer. We see some of this happening with millennials, but why is it that it seems that Gen X and younger millennials seem to be having this issue more than any other generation?
Because they're spending so much time online. And in fact, we're seeing this phenomenon. This isn't just a United States problem, although it is a massive problem in the United States. It is all across the West now. In Britain, they have seen over 4,000% rise in the adolescent girls presenting with this. And it's because we're all looking at the same internet. We're all staring at the same social media influencers. And parents don't realize how many are out there. And they are all telling these young girls the same thing. And these are lonely girls. They spend a lot of time online and a lot less time in person with each other. And they go online and they are told, do you feel uncomfortable in your body? Do you feel imperfectly feminine? You know what? You're probably a boy.
Wow. And so many of those things, do you feel uncomfortable, as you are? It seems like it shares traits with just, having depression or going through anxiety or having the stress of, being a prepubescent girl or going through puberty. It's tough being a girl. It is. And it's tough going through all of that, especially now when you have all of these ideals that you feel like you have to measure up to online.
That's right. It's the online ideals and the availability of options. They are taught in the school system from a very young age. If they don't feel perfectly feminine, they're probably something else. And here are their options, everything from non-binary, gender non-conforming, all the way to trans. And they are able to obtain hormones and surgeries at a very young age. The age of medical consent varies by state. In Oregon, it is 15. They do not need a parental permission and they do not need a therapist note.
Holy cow, before they can even really operate a vehicle. That's insane to me. It seems as though it's too reductive to just say, well, just keep your kids off social media for that long of a time, or just make sure, put some parental filters on. Because I always try to monitor my kids being on social media. They're not allowed to have Twitter accounts or Instagram accounts. I'm like, you can, if you want to go look at stuff, memes and stuff online, that's fine. But it seems like there's more that parents can do. And what do they do? The kids are so many. That's like the new going to your friend's house, riding your bike over. Instead, it's let's get together on social media. And there's a lot of apps out there and a lot of things that make it really easy. What do parents do? And is that too reductive an answer to just say, get your kids off social media?
Yeah, I think you're right, Dana. It's very hard. One thing to know is that online is a very dangerous place and it's a very unhappy place. And the reason it is because the number of people who have access to your children from the moment they join social media are all kinds of people, even adults you would never want in your home. And these influencers are very, they're really, they have these mesmerizing videos. They're very fun to watch. I've watched a lot of them. I've interviewed them. And they really are very convincing. But it's not just that. It starts in the schools. It's all over the place. One thing is to get your kid off social media, but another thing to do is oppose gender ideology in the schools.
That's a great point, a very great point. The book is Irreversible Damage, The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters by Abigail Shrier. This book is a must-read for parents. I think it's a fascinating look, and I love that it is genuinely just, you're very academically curious. I really enjoy your work at the Wall Street Journal, and this is just a great approach to this. And the way that you work in so many people's stories and their own personal journeys on this is so unbelievably informative. It's more than you're going to get just on 140 characters on Twitter or watching a short about it on cable news. Abigail, great work. Thank you so much for joining us.